Today we're gonna finish Miku. We already have the jacket, we have the kimono, we have the skirts, which are the biggest part. Now we have to make the bloomers and we need to make the apron. I'm gonna show you guys how I did that with some little tips on applique as well as pleating. It's really not that much left, and what's left is not really that difficult. But I do want to show you guys how I do it. And then we're gonna finish off with finishing Miku and showing you everything that happened between the time that I started making this and today, which is now September 19th. So I have a flat pattern that I've made right here, and this is just a basic shorts pattern, right? But because I need bloomers to be big, right? I've got to make this pattern significantly bigger. I'm going to multiply these by 2.5. That's kind of the standard when it comes to pleating or ruffles, to give it some poof. And this is actually really easy to make. You're just gonna sew everything together once you have it all patterned out.
Editing hack here, what I should have done is just multiplied the measurements on the top and the bottom, the waist and the leg, by 2.5. Instead, I did it a really stupid way because I don't know what I'm doing, and most of the stuff I do is really chaotic. So don't follow what I'm doing here, just multiply the measurements.
Just do this the easiest way possible, which is to trace it once. This is going to be 2 times. It's not perfect, it's okay, it's Ruffles. It's not that big of a deal. Really, I'm just talking myself down right now because I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. All right, now on both of these, we are going to be sewing the 2 crotch seams together. I've got 2 pieces of fabric here. These are both the front. I'm gonna be sewing down on this one, and then on the back, I'm gonna be doing the same on that crotch seam. So I'm actually gonna try and do a French seam on these. I want the whole thing to be French seamed. But that is not only going to give me stability in this crotch seam, which is going to have a lot of tension because you move your legs a lot, but it's going to keep it from fraying. And like, if you know me, I absolutely hate using my serger. I hate it. I will use it if I have to, but I hate using it. So we're going to try and French seam these, and I'm going to show you how to do that.
Normally when we sew, we put the right sides together, wrong sides out. With a French seam, you're going to put the wrong sides together, right side out, and we're stitching the right side. And then we were trimming that seam down to about 1/4 of an inch because we're going to fold it over and make a whole different new seam that is kind of sandwiched in between a layer of fabric. We just flip it back over, and this is our wrong side of the fabric. You can't tell because it's the same on both sides, but this is the wrong side now. And we are going to pen that so it sandwiches the seam in the middle so we don't have any loosey-goosey fraying seams. And we're going to stitch over that line to make a French seam. French seams can be really scary, but they're really not that difficult, and I prefer my seams to work this way. I, like I said, hate my serger. It's not that it's difficult to use, I just don't like it as much. And so using a French seam for me is a way to contain my seams, and generally they judge pretty well. So I would suggest at least trying a French seam once at your life. They're really stable, they're durable, they're gonna work really well, they do well in judging, and I really enjoy them. They're really not that hard. They're just hard to kind of wrap your head around because you're doing a seam twice and you're starting with it backwards. But look, our seams are fully enclosed in a French seam.
Okay, so we have our seams Frenched and our bloomers are put together, but now we have to make the ruffles. Ruffles are pretty forgiving because you're just gonna kind of ruffle it to your body, which is relatively simple. There's a few different ways that you can do ruffles. I'm gonna show you the way that I chose to do my ruffles. The way that I do them, I find that I have a little bit more control over what I'm doing. There are ways that you can do it messing with the tension on your sewing machine. Some sergers can also do ruffles. There's also a tool called a ruffling foot or a ruffler foot, which will give you ruffles as well. My concern, I don't have a ruffler foot, but I have also heard a few people say that after they used the ruffling foot, that their timing on their sewing machine was messed up, and I don't want that to happen to my sewing machine, so I'm going to ruffle by hand, not stitching by hand, but I'm gonna pull it by hand. I'm gonna show ya.
All right, so we're gonna stitch across our edge that we want ruffled, and we're gonna make 2 lines of stitches, both a 1/4 inch apart from each other with the largest stitch width we have. And then we just grab the bobbin side of our thread and we gently tug that. You need to be careful because if that thread snaps, you gotta start all over and it's a pain in the butt. But ruffles really aren't too difficult once you know, learn how to pull them.
Okay, I have all of this ruffled up. Now I need to do the waistband, but because my waistband is actually going to be holding my tail in it, I've got to figure out how I'm going to put the tail in. There's going to be an invisible zipper on the side of the bloomers, which is why they're still open. So this is going to be the side. So I need my tail to kind of go right here, my tail hole. So we're going to have to find the midpoint on this, excluding the seam allowance. The seam allowance is 1/4 inch, half an inch, half an inch. So I need to find the midpoint on this and then make another keyhole. So here's my midpoint here, and then I have a square that I'm going to be stitching so I can flip this inside out, just like we've done our other keyholes. And I am matching these up, and I'm going to figure out how big I need my circle to be. So first I'm going to pin this on each side and then figure out how big I need my circle to be.
So we have already made cat keyholes a few videos ago, but this is just a simple circle that I'm able to use a cookie cutter to kind of trace my shape because it was the right size that I needed. And I'm doing that with a heat-soluble pen. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to stitch that. I'm going to pull out my pens as I'm sewing. That's very, very important. Go slow and steady. This is not a race. When we're done stitching it, we have to go in and then we have to cut it out. And I wanted to use my pinking shears, but my pinking shears were too big. So I had to cut individual little triangles, and that is going to help the fabric kind of ease into a curve so that it actually is a circle and not a weird lumpy shape. Then I just turn it so that it is right side out, so that it's a circle, it's a keyhole. And I am just clipping that, and then I'm going to go in and top stitch my circle down so that it stays where it needs to stay. You don't always have to top stitch these, but because of the way that I'm doing it, I do have to top stitch this. When I am done clipping and pinning and snipping and sewing, I finally have a little hole that I can then insert a tail into the waistband with. Look at our hole, look at us, we did it! Now I'm just going to sew my waistband on. I've stitched it down on one side and now I'm hand stitching it on the other side because I'm weird about visible stitches. This is going to hide any stitch that is visible.
Now we're going to make the tail to put it into those bloomers. And let me show you what I've got here. So I have 1-inch foam cut kind of like a hot dog bun when you lay a hot dog bun out, and this is actually going to be the base of our tail. I also have a wire glued in here because I'm just going to fold over and glue all of this to make a tube for my Miku tail. So I'm just going to take the edges and kind of like shove them together. Now you're going to need a lot of hot glue for this because it likes to soak into the foam instead of like staying on top of the foam. So we're gonna try and hot glue this and see how this works.
Hi, editing hack again. So I actually ended up not using this version of the tail I made for the final project. I needed a lot more wire in that tail. So you're gonna need quite a bit of wire.
Okie doke, so I've got my fabric pinned. I'm just gonna mark like right up against here because this is going to be my actual tail. Make sure when you're working with any fur that the pile is going the right way. So with cats, with animals, their fur goes towards the tip. So the pile of my fur is going towards that tip. Got it sewn. I also used pinking shears. I'm hoping that it will help make it look more natural. We're gonna see. What do I do? Okay, this way. And I'm gonna try and do it like this and just like hope that I can just like slide it over really easy. This looks inappropriate. Is it actually working? I think it is. Ha 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 ha, this looks inappropriate, but we're getting something done because we are lazy. And this is hard to do. Gonna keep on rolling it down. Gonna keep on trying to roll it down. Okay, okay, okay. Ha ha! Ha 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 ha. Gonna get this uncovered. 'Cause we're really good at cosplay. We definitely know what we're doing. Even though I don't actually know if it's gonna work. Welcome to most of my crafting. It is loud. I make songs. I have a good time. Now that we have the tail wrapped in the fabric, we have to use the wire that has extended outside of the tail and put that into a base that's then going to slide into the waistband of the bloomers. All of this to just avoid having to wear a belt. Now I've created a slit, 2 pieces of craft foam, right? I've made a slit that can go around these wires, and I'm going to hot glue this fabric, the end of the tail, onto the craft foam. Putting my wires down that have gone through that slit after hot gluing this stuff on, and I'm gonna glue my other piece of foam down so that they go on these wires. So I'm sandwiching my wires in between the 2 craft foams. This is gonna help hold it in place, hold it securely, and it shouldn't fall. This is not a heavy tail, so it should be fine. Our tail sandwich, now we just put it in the hole that we made earlier. After we install the invisible zipper, the bloomers are done. Now we can jump into our apron. Aprons are not overly complicated. This one is a little more complicated because it has a design on the front in which I have to applique it. Applique is the art, the act, the activity of stitching a piece of fabric onto another piece of fabric. Usually we are using a satin stitch, and I'm going to show you guys how to do applique by showing you what I have done on the apron. A few things you need to do for applique. I'm doing it my way. If you do it a different way, that's valid too. As long as it gets done, then it's the right way, and this is how I do it. So first I take my image and I mirror it because I need to be able to flip it. Hold on. So I've got my heat and bond, and I've got it mirrored on my heat and bond. It's scribbly, but I know what it means. I'm also going to take some interfacing and use that as well, and I have those pieces cut out, mirrored as well. So first I'm going to put my interfacing onto the wrong side of the fabric that is going to be the applique. Okay, interfacing's on, and now we're going to take our heat and bond, cut out the shapes, and then heat and bond it onto the back side of our interfaced fabric. So the interfacing side will have heat and bond on it. Heat and bond is a double-sided paper-backed iron-on adhesive. So we're going to take and iron it onto the fabric that is going to be sewn onto the other fabric. And we just do that for a couple of seconds. And then we get to do my most favorite part. Oh, I love this part. I think it's because I'm neurodivergent and I just really like peeling things, because you then get to peel the paper off of it. Do not leave the paper on, and do not take the paper off before you have the one side ironed down, because this is actually how it is supposed to work. So after you get that peeled off, you're just going to put it where you want it on your fabric, and you're going to iron that down as well. Make sure all the paper's off, and
it's going to help that stay in place while you are sewing. It's also important to note that I had put interfacing on the back of the red fabric there, which is just going to help stabilize and not end up with a bunch of puckers in either part of the fabric. That is what the interfacing is for. And then we just take and we stitch it with a very, very tight zigzag stitch, which then creates a satin stitch. It creates a thick line that looks like it's just a line, and you can see right here I am just stitching on the very edge of my white fabric, and a satin stitching foot is going to help you kind of keep your direction. After that, I'm not going to just cut my threads willy-nilly, because what can happen is those threads are not secure. And if they start coming undone, all of your satin stitching is going to start fraying and coming undone, and then all that hard work you put into that, it's gone. So I'm taking and I'm poking the thread with a needle through onto the back side of this fabric so that I can then find another piece of thread and tie them together, double knot it, whatever, and then I can snip them so that nothing is going to come undone. My stitches are going to stay where I need them, and all of that hard work, it doesn't go to waste. And then I just snip the extra thread at the end, and then we are done with our applique.
So knife pleats are really easy to make. They just all go one way. So I'm making my knife pleats 1.5 inches apart. So what I'm gonna do is mark 1.5 inches, mark 3 inches, and mark 4.5 inches. And then I just take the first mark down to the third, boom, and knife pleats are really that easy. We're gonna have to press them, but they're not difficult to make at all. So let's talk a little bit more about the apron, because that is when I stopped filming because I got into Con Crunch. So we have our applique right here. We have our pleats, our knife pleats right here. These knife pleats are set inside the 2 layers of the apron. I've got the waistband on. I've got some pearl details, hand beaded, that are kind of moving and shifting. Thanks for that. And then we have a bow on the back. Now the artwork for Miku doesn't show this type of bow, but I wanted the bow to be big and poofy and dramatic. So we have made a loop bow that is sewn on. It's actually sewn on to the skirt. We've got a loop bow with waterfall pleats. Loop bows are really easy. All they are you can go to Cosmic Coterie, I think it's Cosmic Coterie. In order to learn how to make these, you can make these any size you want. They're really easy to do once you wrap your head around how they're actually constructed. And then we have these little features. These are the yen that are featured on the bow in the references. And I made these with diamond dots. These are just diamond dots that are glued on. So I just got diamond dots and glued them on just like I would rhinestones. And they're just a really cute detail on there that I really enjoy. And they were really cheap because they were on clearance. It was 97 cents for like a bunch of them. I still have a ton of them. When I said I was in Con Crunch, it was really the Con Crunch before the Con Crunch. I actually beat Con Crunch. I don't have any makeup on, but I'm going to show you the rest of the things that I didn't film. Welcome to my closet, where my cosplays sit. So let me show you all what else I did. This is the Shimenawa, and this is filled with plumber insulation. This is what insulates pipes, right? And on the bottom one, I have wire coming through because the bells are attached with the wire that is coming through these tails. And it's just got linen on it. The bracket that I stick into my obi is just a piece of flat steel boning that I bent the hell out of and stuck in here. These are the paw pad trippy bits. The paws are just satin stitched. And this has wire in it to help hold the shape that I have kind of sewn into the seam. I also have trim that is hand sewn on there. And then I have these little ties that are made of window backer rod, another type of insulation that you can use in cosplay. And those are sewn onto the obi. The obi is a fake obi. It doesn't tie like a real obi. So this is linen. These are the little kitty cat ears. I've got some bias tape, some trim, pretty simple. Obis are not super difficult to make. But yeah, the paws are just attached to the obi. I made my own tabi, which are stained from the shoes. But I just traced my foot on a pre-made tabi and created a pattern, and then I glued on my rhinestones for the little kitty cat face. Yeah, these are where I store my cosplays. And that takes up half of my side of the closet. And now let's get into what actually happened at the con and how everything went. This hung up on a towel thing. Come on. Come on. You were just staying. Okay. I didn't really sleep last night. I have problems sleeping in hotels anyways. And we're not at the host hotel. So it was very quiet, which generally is better than it being very loud. But I, at home, sleep with like 3 fans on and 5 cats. I'm not used to silence, so I really didn't sleep well last night. But we're up. We're ready to go. We're gonna put on our makeup. I really don't know what I'm doing with my makeup, so I'm not gonna film the process, but we're gonna be trying. I made this. And I sound like Christmas. And we have to walk like 4 blocks to the convention center, which is great fun for me. That's why I brought flip-flops, so I can not wear tabi or gaita while walking to the hotel. I also can't really sit. I can straddle. Oh! But that's about it. Uh-huh. Most of cosplay competitions is actually just waiting.
Just sitting.
Just waiting and sitting and waiting some more. You get up, you wait until a decent time to put on your cosplay, then you wait until your pre-judging time, right? Then you wait for when you have to go into the green room, but here we don't really have green rooms. It's just the room that the competition takes place in. And then you wait for the competition to start, and then you wait for your turn to walk on stage, and then you wait for the skits, and then you wait for awards, and then you wait until everyone files out so you actually have the ability to get out and back to wherever you started from at 7:30 in the morning. It's a lot of fun.
When I say the vibes in this room were immaculate, I absolutely mean it. And in the Midwest, we don't usually have like green rooms, like a separate room during the competition. So usually we're in the room for a few hours. And I've only really had an experience with a separate green room maybe twice in the 15 years I've been doing this. But the vibes in this space were absolutely immaculate. Everyone was cheering for one another. People were talking. I had to sit against the wall because I couldn't sit in a chair normally in my cosplay. And so I kind of feel like I missed out on a lot of socializing, and I was also very, very, very nervous. For some reason, I was more nervous than I ever have been in a competition. And something that I really appreciate that the cosplay heads for Matsuricon did was before the show started, they gave a little blurb reminding everyone that we signed a sportsmanship agreement. Because recently, in like the past year, the sportsmanship in the cosplay community has gotten a little bad. And so I was glad that the cosplay heads just reaffirmed that bad sportsmanship is not acceptable in this space. If you lose, you can get feedback. You can give feedback, but we don't tear down others when we don't place in a cosplay competition. And trust and believe, I was so nervous about this competition. I have had just not the greatest time mental health-wise with cosplay in the past couple of years. I've kind of been thrown into the spotlight very quickly, and it's created a lot of imposter syndrome in me, which means I don't actually believe that I'm good at what I do, despite people telling me that I am good at what I do. So Miku for me was a big culmination of all the skills I've learned in the past 20 years, and I put so much of my heart and soul into this cosplay. So yeah, I absolutely was so nervous.
So, how do I feel? Tired. It has been almost a month since then. I am very, very tired, but the amount of feelings that I went through over the weekend was something I've never felt before. For a little bit of backstory, I went through a very bad breakup, and I kind of sat out of the cosplay community for a few years. I still went to cons and I still cosplayed a little bit, but not at the level that I used to. Not at the level I had for like the 15 years prior to that. And because of that bad breakup, when I had, without giving away too many details, I lost a lot of friends. There were rumors that I was crazy. There were a lot of really bad things that were said about me, and I lost pretty much everyone that I cared about. I'm getting a little emotional. And I felt like I was not welcome in the community anymore, so I kind of had to rebuild a network. I came back into the cosplay community with full force right after the pandemic, I think 2022. When some stuff had settled down and there were vaccines available. That created this really bad imposter syndrome in me. And I did not feel like I was as good as everyone said that I was. Some of the friends that I had had before were not kind to me about where I was in my cosplay journey. So I had come from literally having people tell me my stuff doesn't look good to people saying that I inspire them, that they love my tutorials, that they love my cosplays, that they can't wait to see what I make next. And because this build has been such a public build, the amount of people that came up to me at the con and said like, oh my gosh, I feel like a part of me is in this. And that's exactly what that is. All of the support and love that I've gotten in the process of Miku is sewn into Miku. It's there. All of y'all are in my build, in my Miku build, because I can't separate what I am experiencing while I am making something. It's kind of just the same to me. And the amount of love and support and just kindness that I've received in the community since I came back has been mind-blowing. But that's kind of what made me scared at the same time, and that is why I built Miku. I built Miku as just an amalgamation of everything I've learned. Everything that I have perfected, every technique I know, with some other things in there too. Newer things. And I think that's what competitive cosplay for me really is. It's not competing against other people. It's competing against who I was. It's competing against the skills I brought to the table last time. I am so incredibly grateful for all of the kind words, the people coming up to me saying that they wanted to quit cosplay because they thought they were aging out of it, but I showed them that they didn't have to quit doing something they love just because of their age. The people who literally will come up to me and said, I used your tutorial for this. It's mind-blowing to me how kind people are, and I am just a person doing something. And the amount of people that I've been able to help through just doing a thing has been crazy to me. I don't know. But Miku was everything I know and who I want to be. Miku is both who I was and who I want to be. And that is my first ever Best in Show. And I had went through over a year of not placing in any competition. So to go from feeling like I'm not welcome in my community, come back into my community, win my master's award, to then start really focusing on social media, going through this weird like dry spell for me with competitions, and then having so many people run up to me and congratulate me and tell me, I watched this build, I've been so excited to see this, I'm so proud of you. Oh, like I can't even express to you guys the whirlwind that the past few years have been for me. So I appreciate all of you. I feel like I'm blurbing. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. I cannot express how much, I cannot express how much it means to me to know that if something happened to me tomorrow, I would have left an impact. So, thank you guys. What's next? I have been trying to win a Halloween bar costume contest for 3 years and I haven't won it yet. And that is what I'm trying to do. I will be making Halloween costumes. I've already started the process of filming that. I also have some fun little stuff planned in between all of that. I am not going anywhere. I am still going to be doing what I do. I am wanting to go to bigger cons to compete, meet more people who also compete. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just gonna keep going on. Thank you guys so much for your support through this. Miku has been such a wonderful expression of me and my art. It has also been one of the best weekends of my life. Thank you for following along in this process and in this journey. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on here. We are still a very small channel. I do not make money off of the YouTubes that I make. I'm hoping to get there eventually. But any support that you can give is absolutely wonderful and meaningful to me. If you want to see my Miku build book, it's over on my Instagram. I have it pinned up at the top. And if you want to see more of the behind the scenes process of Miku, I have plenty of stuff on my TikTok. But thank you guys so much. I am so pumped and excited for what the future has. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!